This podcast is presented by Skies Magazine. If you're interested in the Canadian aviation industry, Skies is your go-to multimedia resource for the latest news, in-depth features, stunning photography, and insightful video coverage. Whether you're an aviation professional or enthusiast, Skies is dedicated to keeping you informed and bringing your passion for aviation to life. Visit skiesmag.com to learn more and subscribe to stay updated on all things Canadian aviation.
Fuel and ignition switches. On. RPM switches. Set. TD switches. Normal. Doors and hatches. Closed. Light out. Strobe light. On. Restart check is complete. Clear left. Engineers. Start number 2. Starting 2. Wind 310 Pilot Project Podcast. Clear takeoff. Runway 31 left.
All right, we're ready for departure here at the Pilot Project Podcast, the best source for stories and advice from RCAF and mission aviation pilots, brought to you by Skies Magazine. I'm your host, Brian Morrison. With me today is Pascal Duclos, an aerial firefighting pilot with Service Aérien Gouvernemental du Québec. Pascal, welcome to the show. I've got a feeling this is going to be a super interesting conversation, so let's dive right in. So today we will be talking about Pascal's career and flight training, and we will be especially focusing on his time conducting firefighting operations in the recent fires in the Los Angeles area. But before we jump into any of that, let's go through Pascal's bio. Passionate about aviation and driven by the desire to fight wildfires in Quebec, Pascal began his aviation career in 1998. To gain the necessary experience, he worked for several Bush aviation companies across Canada, honing his skills and developing valuable expertise in the field. In 2006, he completed his instrument flight training at the Centre de Formation Aéronautique de Québec. This certification allowed him to enter the charter flight sector, where he operated flights across Canada and the United States. His ultimate goal became a reality in 2010 when he joined the Government Air Service. For 8 seasons, he served as a tanker pilot, playing a crucial role in protecting Quebec's forests from wildfires. His dedication and experience then led him to join the training team, and by the end of 2022, he was promoted to chief pilot of the air tanker fleet. His career has given him the opportunity to experience significant moments, including the 2023 wildfire season, one of the most intense in Quebec's history, as well as the historic fires that ravaged Los Angeles County last winter. These events highlight the immense challenges faced by the aviation sector in wildfire suppression. With this extensive experience, he continues his mission with passion and commitment, contributing to the training of new generations of pilots and the protection of our forests. So Pascal, what started you down the path of chasing aviation as a career? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, I was interested in the high school to become a pilot, and obviously they told me I will not be able to be a pilot because I was not speaking in English at this time. So I tried to do something else. So I joined the reserve army for a few years, and I jumped to the regular army for about 6 months or so. And when I decided to quit, I was driving down on the highway and listening to the radio, and I heard become a pilot and do a flight, just 1 hour flight, something like that, just to overview of a pilot. And that's where I started my career after that flight.
Really? So how did you go about learning English then to make sure you could be a pilot?
Yeah, that became after I started the training as a private pilot and everything in the private school. So that was in process of my career, because in Quebec you don't really need to speak English to be a pilot. So but since I have nobody in my family who was a pilot, I did not have any expertise in that. So I didn't know they have a private school where you can be a pilot. So that was my my process to be a pilot anyway.
Okay. So what inspired you to make aerial firefighting your ultimate goal?
When I started my private license in the airport of Quebec, every time I was taxiing to the runway 24, I was passing in front of the CL415. That's where the Service Aérien Gouvernemental is. The parking is, and so every time I was passing in front of those planes, I was watching the plane and say, "Oh, wow, one day I'm gonna fly those planes." And my instructor was laughing at that time, but that's I guess that was normal because lots of people thinking about or dreaming about flying those planes.
So does your instructor know that you do it now?
Yeah.
So we're used to discussing the military flight training system on this show. Can you tell us briefly about the training you underwent from getting your PPL or private pilot license to being qualified to fight fires? What ratings are required to be a firefighting pilot?
Yeah, I have done my private pretty fast in the when I just started in the winter, so around 1998, and after that I just done all of my hours to get to the commercial flight test in the school and to the writing exam as well. But for the rest of the hour, instead of doing my twin rating, I went to the company to do my float plane rating. So I was able to do around 50 hours, maybe 45, 50 hours of flying on floats before getting my commercial license, which is 200 hours. And after that, I just get a job. I hang around in the company helping pilot there and like loading and unloading the plane. And when the owner had a chance, he just offered me a job around in July. That was my start of commercial flying. That was only VFR float charter, tourist sightseeing, something like that. And I stayed there for a few years, maybe 3 years, 2 years. And they have a crash, so they shut down the company for a year. So I move on the Manitoba. So that's come the answer to the question of where I learned my English. I got a call from one of my friend guys was looking for pilot in Manitoba. They are hiring me, and I was talking about with them and say, I don't have the English level to work with you. And they said, no problem. Everybody speaks French. They're going to teach you and everything. But when I get there, nobody was speaking French. So, so I had to learn English the hard way. And after that summer, I came back and then the same company. They restart the operation. So I with a little bit more experience, English and everything. So they offer me a Beaver job, DHC2.
Sorry, that was on the de Havilland Beaver?
Yeah, the Havilland Beaver, yeah.
Oh, that's a classic bush plane.
Yeah, pretty classic, yeah. So I spent I worked around 7 years, 8 years on this company. I was in Latuc in Quebec. So, and after that, I get my my IFR, twin IFR rating. Get that pretty fast in the same company, and Centre de formation aéronautique de Québec. So after that, I get my IFR twin rating. And I jump on the charter company, different small twin fixed-wing plane, flying around north of Quebec and east United States, Ontario, Manitoba, charter, like a King Air and Navarro, something like that. And after that, I get the interview in Service Gouvernemental, and I get a job in 2010. So that was the ultimate goal.
Wow. Let me see if I can remember all that. You needed to get your commercial, your multi-engine, your IFR rating. And did you need a float rating as well to get that job?
Of course. We need the float rating to get a CL450. Yeah, because it's amphibious airplane. So
yes. Okay, wow. That's a lot of ratings to have to collect on your own out there.
But yeah, to me, it took like 10 years. At this time, we have to have 15 hours on float before having the possibility to just apply on the CL415 pilot job. Today, we cut down that requirement to 500 hours. So that's make people can apply much sooner than it was before.
It was 1,500 and now it's just down to 500?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Can I ask why that is?
Because we are in a shortage of pilot, of course, in the all around the world. So with the lack of people experience on float, we have to find a solution to find people, and so we had more training on a new pilot, so we were able to get lower on the experience.
Okay,
that's the way we try to find people, because we still have 25% less people than what we need.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the story in every aviation company, right? I mean, same with the Air Force. I imagine it's pretty common across the whole spectrum of aviation right now.
It is the same story in every company, for sure.
So when you arrived at the Government Air Service, did you feel prepared by your previous experience and training?
I would say yes and no because I was prepared to fly the plane, let's say, in normal condition because what you're doing is charter, right? If you go to the bush cabin, dropping people and taking people out, stuff like plywood and everything, you canoe, four-wheelers, ATV, something like that, you're prepared to do charter and everything. So land, drop, take something, and go back to the base. So it's same thing on the like a twin IFR charter company. But when you arrive on the aerial firefighting, it's a little bit different. So the condition is different. You do multiple takeoff and landing in same day. That can goes over 100 in a day. So it's really hard on the physical and mental to stay efficient on the every takeoff and landing, and everything. So when you start, it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
And my first mission after my initial training was on the St. Lawrence River. So we had a little bit swell, and so the captain started the all the scoop and everything, the drop and everything, which is normal. And when they give me the control to do scoop was really terrible. When I finished this mission, I was thinking I will not be able to scoop anymore.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult for me. Anyway, after that mission, we had another mission the day after, and we spent 8 hours on the other mission. It was more than just 1 or 2 scoop. So I had time to acclimate and get the feeling of the plane, because when you jump on a mission, you have lots of simulator hours, but on a real plane, it was I would say between 5 and 10 hours flying maximum.
Okay.
So when you jump on a scoop and the swell and everything was not, you don't have any training on the swell before you get in, because in Quebec it's not really often you go in the swell.
Yep.
So it was really difficult. Yeah. So anyway, after the second day, we get back into the base, and that was a good day. I was right on the spot, and it was exciting about the mission. So that's why you said yes and no. So depend of what you're doing, and you cannot be prepared to do 75 drop in the 4-hour mission on the smoke environment, on the you have a mountainous region. It's lots of you never know what was going to be your first mission, so it's going to be hard. We had some people who had the first mission in Los Angeles contract.
Oh, wow.
They didn't have any fire in the summer here. They just have training all the summer long, so it can be really different. You can do your first mission on the Manitoba, which is pretty flat, right? There's no really mountain over there, but the lake are pretty shallow. You can have the first fire in the British Columbia, which is really mountainous region, so it will be pretty rough for the first fire mission.
Yeah, it's interesting. I knew you guys were doing operations in California and Quebec. I didn't realize that it was Canada-wide, essentially, that you're operating in.
Yeah, we are operating all Canada-wide from Goose Bay to Vancouver. So,
wow.
Just depend on demand.
Okay. And I guess just quickly for the audience, when you say scooping, we'll get into this a little more when we talk about the aircraft, but that's basically there's scoops in the bottom of the aircraft to scoop up water as you go along the water, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we on the CL415 you have 2 scoop. We fill 2 tanks. The 2 tanks are split in 2. So you have 1 tank splitting with baffle in middle. So the 415 come with they basically say 4 tanks, but it's 2 tank with baffle in the middle of the first tank, and you have 2 scoop, maybe like I would say 10 centimeter by maybe 15 square. So we cannot have any fish, and they have baffle in there as well. So you cannot scoop fish,
Okay.
you cannot scoop a diver or something like that, just like a legend from somebody told somewhere. So yeah, we just put the scoop down. So that's where it comes from. The name of scooping water.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, are those tanks divided so that you can drop in like quarter, like you can do 4 separate drops if you need to?
Yeah, we can do 4 separate drop. We have timer on the computer. We can set up a timer. We can do 2 at a time. So there's a multiple way to use it. But mainly we use it at 4 at the same time. Sometimes you can do like a small delay in each tank with the like auto four. That's the way we call it, auto four. So automatic 4 doors
Okay.
with a small timer in between each door. This more mainly for the crash fire or something like that. Sometimes you have to do a longer line, so it's going to be more straight line than a less wide. So you can do a longer line.
Okay. What specific training did you receive as a new pilot joining the aerial firefighting team?
It starts with the in-class training. So in beginning, you start to learn all the, like every other planes, you start to learn all of the limitation of the plane, the system, and everything on the class. And after that, you jump on all the normal training class you have to do for every other company, like high altitude, oxygen, and everything. You have to do all the same training. And after that, we jump on the training. So that's where it start to split from, let's say, the airline training. Of course, they do training on simulator, but they mainly do like IFR training and emergency. We do IFR training, emergency, and we do also scooping and fire mission training in the simulator. And we, for the new pilot, took around 20-25 hours on the simulator instead of 5 or 6 hour, I think, if I remember well, on the airline for initial. So let's say the double of flight simulator training and the scooper. We're gonna go through all the emergency and the QRH. So it took times, but after that, the candidate is really ready to go on the plane. So because we finished the training on the plane. Just like I said, we don't have the full flight simulators, so we have to do a training flight. So after that, we do 2-3 flights with the guys, the candidate, and we do the PPC.
What's the PPC?
It's a pilot proficiency check.
Okay.
So it's a check ride, basically check ride, to comply with the Transport Canada regulation. And after that, we do our line check. That's what they call in the airline, the line check. It's a fire mission with one of our check pilot or trainer pilot. So we do a fire mission that can be like simulated or a real one. We try to do real one because you're gonna have smoke, environmental, and other traffic, everything. So when we go in a fire, it's kind of a small airport is gonna be in place. We have guys on top of us. We have a helico top of us managing the traffic and everything. So just to make sure the guys understand all the movement and the situation awareness around that. So before putting the new guys with a captain on the line,
Right.
we try to do our best to. So and after that fire, the guys is, if he understand all the thing, we release the guys on the line, and that's the whole process for the new guys.
Yeah. Wow.
It took around between 1 and 2 months, depending of
Okay.
the season and the availability and the weather around.
So that's a lot to do in 1 to 2 months. So that must be like a pretty intense couple months.
It is.
Just quickly, you mentioned Helco. That's a helicopter controller, right?
Yeah. It stands for helicopter controller. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. What is the upgrade process with the Quebec Government Air Service?
It mainly goes by seniority in Quebec since it's governmental. So it took around 7 years before you can be upgraded. At minimum is 5 years, 500 hours in the company. That's in the requirement for the company, and it goes by simulator with our instructor here, and you're gonna go like more deeper in each exercise. So just to be prepared as to be a captain and not first officer anymore. So just to take decision and everything. So it's not really only on the way you do the procedure, like just read and do. It's more like go deeper in decision making and everything, because you cannot go like in aerial firefighting. Since we scooping out of the lake, we didn't know it's not like operating on the runway and everything. So it's gonna change every time you go, and sometimes it's changed on the same mission. You go in the same lake, and during the 4 hours the wind change, the smoke change. You have to change the line. You have to sometimes you change from 180 degrees to coming on the lake because you cannot scoop on the other side anymore because the fire is too big. He's just going to create his own water system, let's say.
Oh, wow.
So that's why we go a little bit deeper. And after the simulator, it's not that long, maybe 8 hours, 9 hours of simulator at start. And after that, we're going to go on plane because our simulator is not a level D like full motion. It's just a basic flight simulator. So after that, we go on the plane. We do the training. It needs to be captain. And after that is kind of we're going to do the PPC on the left seat to be captain. And we're going to, before the release, that's the biggest part. Before the release, we fly some of the instructor or me as chief pilot. We fly with the candidate and make sure he can manage the plane on almost every situation, let's say. Because, of course, we cannot do like all situation with him, but we're going to try to do a few hours with him, 5 hours or 5 missions, something like that, depend of the candidate and everything. Just to make sure he's good enough to manage everything, because you never know. He can be posted on a mission with the brand new guys, so you're gonna have to manage the new guys, and then the error the guy can make it. So we have to be sure it's accurate, you know.
Yeah, it actually sounds a lot like the upgrade process within most fleets in the military. Just like you said, a bigger focus on decision making, a bigger focus on monitoring junior pilots. As you said, there's a lot more to it than just conducting the mission.
Yes.
So let's get into a bit of general operations in aerial firefighting. Most listeners likely aren't aware of what aerial firefighting looks like in North America. Can you share with us what a career in aerial firefighting entails? Now, we've talked a little bit about how it differs by province, but is it contracted by season, or are the pilots employed year-round?
Yeah, just like we said, province by province, it's going to be different for firefighting with all the terrain and everything, ocean, and we have a contract as well in the United States. For the employee of Service Environmental, we are paid year-round. So we're doing 3 on a recurrent training. It's a 3 weeks, 5 days on, 2 days off, just like a normal schedule. And after that, it jump on the 15 days on, 3 days off until almost the end of the September. So that's gonna be almost the end of the season, fire season in Quebec. But we still have fire until November now. We're gonna have 30 days to do in a row after the schedule of it. 15 days on and 3 days off. So that's going to make us all the hours for the year as a governmental employee.
Okay.
And that 30 days is mainly used to do the contract outside of Quebec. But some of our guys are on a check to go outside, so they're going to do the 30 days in Quebec. So that's going to complete all the season. The season begins on the April 1st. For the fire response until the November 15th in Quebec.
Okay. And then after that, you've got your season in California.
Yeah, in California, the season starts over there on September 1st, and the initial agreement is 90 days.
Okay. What do aerial firefighters do outside of wildfire season?
Some have other job during the winter. They keep the older job they have just in part-time during the winter.
Okay.
But most of the people are just enjoying the winter, let's say, off or holiday, passing time with the family, and just try to catch up the time you miss with them in the summer.
Yeah, I imagine this job has you away from home a lot.
Yeah, we spend around, I don't know, maybe 110, 120 days out of a home.
Wow.
With the contract in Los Angeles.
That's tough.
Yeah, it is tough, yeah. But it's not just, some jobs are tougher than others, you know. If you're talking about the army or something like that, somebody leave for 6 months in a row, so
yeah,
we're leaving for the biggest stretch we're doing. It's 28 days, 30 days in the Los Angeles contracts.
So the CL-415 is a twin-engine, fixed-wing amphibious aircraft used for water bombing. Apart from yourself, who else is on board the CL-415 when you're conducting firefighting operations?
On the firefighting operation, we are only captain and co-pilot on board.
Okay.
We are not allowed to put any people on the jump seat for water bombing operation, since we are on a restricted certificate.
Okay. So just a crew of 2.
Yeah.
For people who are unfamiliar with the 415, can you give us a sense of how big it is, how much water it can carry, and any other facts and figures that would help put that in perspective?
Yeah, the CL415 is around 100 feet wide and can carry up 1,600 US gallon of water, or if you prefer, 6,137 liter of water. The lift-off weight is 47,000 pounds when we get out of the scoop, out of the lake. So it's pretty big airplane, but is not really fast airplane. It's fast, but it's not as fast as a jet airplane for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really maneuverable. So you can do a tight turn. You can do pretty slow flight. When we go to the drop, we slow the flight at 110 knots.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty slow.
Yeah. And then just for listeners who are not super familiar with how that would work, basically the slower you go, the tighter you can turn. So I imagine that would be really helpful in the terrain you guys were flying in California, for example, where there's a lot of hills and valleys and things like that.
Yeah, we can turn pretty tight, flat 15, and slow down the airplane. You can turn pretty tight.
Awesome. Does the CL415 ever carry fire retardant or just water? And can you explain the difference in strategy and execution between dropping water and fire retardant?
We are able to have kind of a fire retardant. We call that foam. It's basically soap who you're going to mix with water. We have a pump inside with the control in the cockpit, so we can add that to the water. That's the same way to think when you use foam on the water. Is going to cut the air to the fire and keep the moisture in the vegetation. When we battle a fire, if you drop foam or you drop a retardant, you don't want to drop water over that. So you have to drop in between, let's say, the fire retardant and the fire, or directly on the fire. The CL415 is, to my knowledge, is the only capable machine who go right into the smoke. It's mainly designed to go directly in the smoke, so we can pass through the fire and drop right in the flames. On the other airplane, you have a risk of a compressor stall and everything. So because of the difference of temperature and everything. So.
Oh, wow. So the CL415 is engineered so that they don't run into those kinds of issues.
Yeah, we have they call HBV enabling valve, so that's going to prevent from the surge of the compressor.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. I never even thought about that being an issue, but that's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
And just so I understand, when it comes to fire retardant versus water, I believe you're dropping on the fire, and retardant you're dropping ahead of the fire. Is that roughly correct?
Yeah. It's a good way to say it. With foam, sometimes we put it directly on the fire, but when you have a big open flame, it's not really efficient to put foam directly on the big open flame. The foam is lighter when it's mixed, so we can pop up with the updraft and everything of the heat,
Okay.
So you prefer to put water, and if you have just a small open flame all over the place, you can put foam without any problem. So that's going to cut the air and everything.
Okay.
So that's a baseline.
Okay. How do you assess the winds for a drop, and how does this factor influence your approach?
In Quebec, we try to do mainly headwind drop. So if you go headwind, the drop will stop with the wind and drop right. It's easier from my perspective to drop in the right place. But sometimes you are not able to do it because of the mountain or power line or anything you have in the environmental of the fire. So sometimes you have to go crosswind, downwind, or so the drop will drift. So you have to adjust your drop, and everything goes by let's say feeling, experience. So you have to manage the wind drift and the wind force. So you have to manage that. Since we flying two in a formation, The first one drop, the second one can adjust the drop with what he saw in front of him. So I can adjust, let's say, one wing to the left or one wing to the right, or a little bit later or sooner, depending on what he saw in front.
Okay.
So it's always easier to be second instead of the first one.
Yeah. And I was going to ask that the CL415s fly in a formation of two while firefighting. Is that the biggest reason behind it, that you have that chance then to adjust based on the drop in front of you?
So one of the reasons for sure, but it's not the only reason. It's just more efficient to have two planes at the same time. So the goal to achieve the suppression of fire, it's put more water by the hour on the fire. So if you have a small fire, it took really a lot of water to put it out. So if we are two, we're gonna work half of the hour we have to fly before calm down the fire. I say put it off, but mainly we do not put it off the fire. It's the ground crew. We just calm the fire so the crew can go and shut off the fire.
So you guys are more controlling the fire until the ground firefighters can put it out?
Yeah. That's the way it goes.
Okay.
Sometime on a small fire you can put it out, but mainly on the big fire, it go too deeper in the ground, so the water you're gonna drop from the sky will not go as deep as they need it.
Okay. Can you take us through how you do a drop from start to finish?
Yeah, we'll try it. So first, and I would say from Quebec or Canada, we took off from the airport heading to the fire mission coordinate we have, and we found a lake the closest by the fire as possible to be more efficient. And by the time we find the lake, sometime we'll have the lead plane gonna go over the fire, have a view of the fire and everything to look at the way we're gonna drop, if the situation is possible. Otherwise, we're gonna boat scoop the water and go over the fire and have a look of the situation awareness, mountain, power line, entry, exit. And if it's not complicated fire, we're gonna do the drop. So do the pattern just like you do in the airport, and just drop and reload and come back until the guys on top of us, the ghost, said we have enough, so we can go back home. If it's more complicated, we can do a dry run, or let's say if we have firefighter on the ground, sometimes we have no contact with them. So by doing a dry run, they're gonna see us and they're gonna put the water hose, throwing water out of the trees. So we're gonna see them. So that's gonna tell us they have to see us and they're gonna get out of the way, because you don't want to drop of water and let's say broke a tree and the tree will fall on the firefighter. That's not the way you want to do it. It can be dangerous if somebody is on the ground.
Yeah.
Depending on the visitation you have, So that's basically the way we do it.
Okay. What is the typical time frame from receiving a call to launching an aerial firefighting mission?
When we are in alert, we have 3 degrees of alert. We have one is called green. It's a 1 hour response before taking off. We have yellow, which is 30 minutes, and we have red, which is 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I would say it's basically the same of a army. You have degree of alert, and you have to be ready to taking off. When we are all in Quebec, nobody is requesting. We have 2 hours before taking off. So that's the baseline. Back in the years in Los Angeles, we had around 5 minutes before taking off. Yeah, we were in the tanker base. The plane is ready, check, fuel, just jump in and taking off. The way we are situated in the Van Nuys airport, we are just across of the runway, so it's pretty fast to taking off. And we have a priority just like Medevac.
Right.
So when we are in the fire mission, it's pretty quick. Can be in the air.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the contract in California, the rotations that personnel do, and some of the challenges you've had lately. Let's set the stage a little here. The CL415 has been involved in firefighting in California for decades. Can you tell us about when you folks are normally in California and what the start or end of the fire season looks like?
Yeah, just like I said before, we start the agreement to be ready for firefighting in Los Angeles September 1st, and it's for 90 days. So it leads to basically December 1st. And we are 2CL415 over there with 2 crew. So that make us able to do a fire mission between the sunrise and sunset.
Okay.
So in September, the day is longer. So we need to have 2 crew per plane. And even in December, when the day is shorter, from October, they have what they call over there a Santana wind. That the wind comes from the desert. It goes pretty, just like we saw in the January. It goes pretty strong, and it came with the low level of humidity and heating. So it's really challenging. It's really rough on the pilot, on the crew. So after 2 missions, what we're doing is we do a crew change. So even if the pilot still have the ability of flying, we're gonna do a crew change just to make sure we have a fresh crew in the airplane. So that's the basically condition that what we have over there. And of course, we have our technician with us. So we have 4 technicians with us at all time in Los Angeles. So that's make us really able to do mission and maintenance during the fire season over there.
And we talked a little bit about this in our pre-interview call. What are the conditions required for you guys to head back to Quebec?
Normally, there's lots of condition, but the baseline is when you get 2 inches of rain, you're gonna be released and heading back to Quebec. But there's something adding on that: the availability of the airplane from the Los Angeles County, the crew, if they have, let's say they have it, just like us, probably the lack of hiring pilot over there, firefighting on the ground. So the resources is another condition before releasing us. And of course, the weather, just like I said, 2 inches of rain, but let's say we have 2 inches of rain, but they have a Santa Ana a prediction just like last winter with a really strong Santa Ana wind coming in a week. They can say we're gonna keep you for another week or something like that because they anticipate maybe a problem with the fire suppression.
Okay, so basically, you can go home when there's 2 inches of rain in the forecast, no Santa Ana winds, and enough crews and aircraft to manage the fires.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. What does a normal rotation look like for a pilot coming to California?
Normally, the pilot doing 28 days rotation in California. So yeah, we do 28 days, came back home, and when we have enough crew, it's gonna be it for them for the year. But since we are missing some crew, we doing like multiple rotation, or even can go all the way to the maximum of the regulation, which is 42 days.
And 42 days, can you tell us about when you arrived in California and how long you ended up being there?
Yeah, my last rotation start on the December 25th, and I stay there for almost 42 days. I took 2 planes on the way back to home, and we get stuck for mechanical issues. So I hit my 42 days, so I had to jump on the airline to come back.
Oh, yeah. Why did you end up in California for that long?
Just to make the contract going on, and the because of the lack of people, just like I said before, everybody is back home, is off, and we have the desire to comply with the agreement we had with the Los Angeles County Fire Department. So we didn't want to say we're going back home because we don't have any pilots. So I forced some pilot to go, and I forced myself to go as well. So it makes more sense to me, and so that's why I make 42 days over there and the Christmas time.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about when the fires began. From January 7th to 31st, 2025, a series of 14 destructive wildfires affected the Los Angeles metropolitan area and San Diego County in California, United States. The fires were exacerbated by drought conditions, low humidity, a buildup of vegetation from the previous winter, and hurricane-force Santa Ana winds, which in some places reached 100 miles per hour or 160 kilometers per hour. As of January 31st, 2025, the wildfires have killed at least 29 people, forced more than 200,000 people to evacuate, and destroyed more than 18,000 homes and structures. The wildfires have burned over 57,000 acres of land in total. Most of the damage was from the two largest fires, the Eaton Fire in Altadena and the Palisades Fire in Pacific Palisades, both of which were fully contained on January 31st, 2025. So let's start with the day you got the call. Can you describe the events of January 8th when you received the call for the Palisade Fire, including the wind conditions and your decision-making process?
Yeah, that morning was really windy, and when we got a call, my wingman Bastion was looking at the computer because we have a small computer on the tanker base, which is basically a fire station with camera on the station they call 69 Bravo, and they have a wind indication over there. And you look at the computer, and he told me it is 63 knots over the hill at the 69 Bravo. What we're gonna do with the call? Say we're going and we're gonna see if it's doable, if we can do something, even if we're thinking about turbulence or even the efficiency of the drop, because sometimes you drop and the water goes sideways and cannot hit the ground. For this situation, we were able to working. So we took off and we heading to the Palisades Fire. At this moment was around 10:45, I think, something like that, in the morning.
And I think you said you had like an interesting discussion with the Chinook crew as well that morning.
Yeah, just before we get a call, the guys of the Chinook, they take the Chinook and put it in the hangar, and they told us it was too windy for them to start the engine. I'm not really good with their limitation, but they have a limitation to start the engine of the wind direction and the wind force. So they decide to put the Chinook inside of the hangar because they don't want to break it. And we get a call, and since we don't have limitation for engine start or takeoff, if we are headwind, there's no limitation for taking off. So there was no problem for us to going on fire.
Wow.
And CL415 is it's kind of a tank of the airplane. It's really, really strong.
Wow. So it's so windy that a Chinook can't even start, and you guys are going out to fight a fire.
Yeah. At this location, the Chinook was not able to start, but when we get in the fire, there was Chinook over there because they came from outside of the region,
Yep.
maybe Santa Clarita or something like that, so they came farther. And the Chinook from Van Nuys, they taking off around 45-50 minutes after that.
Okay.
So I guess the wind get down and they get out of the hangar and they came join us to battle that huge fire.
Wow. As we said, you decided to press and go and fly your mission. Can you explain the process of a flight from start to finish?
Yeah, it was like a kind of a regular mission for us in the beginning. So we just start taxiing back to the runway 34 at Van Nuys, thinking of heading to the Palisades Fire. We have a procedure to go on the initial point to get contact with the Elco. We get clear in, we get it in, and we do our first drop. Look at the ocean to try to find a spot to scoop. Since we were really windy, it was I would say around 3 to 4 feet of wave over the ocean, which is pretty big. So we find a spot, we try a first scoop, and we head into the fire, and we get able to do 23 scoop and drop over that fire.
In one flight?
In one flight, in a 2.5-hour flight.
Wow, that's so busy. If you think about how many evolutions that is, and you said 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you get ×2, it's 46 drop for both airplanes. So that's quite a lot of water. And I remember once heading to one of the drop under the smoke column, they have a spot fire just in front of the head of the fire. And there was down the valley heading to the drop. And when I look at the house over the valley, there were people on top of the garage terrace, and they were running out. They didn't see the fire, I guess, in the bottom, and it was something to see all the people around, and the car jam in the traffic. They cannot get out of the Palisades, so it was really. It's the first time I saw that.
It was the first time you saw like so many people at a fire?
Yeah, so many people stuck, trying, leaving the car there and walking to escape the fire region or like the area. So that was really intense. Of course, everybody do their best to calm the fire, to put it out, but it was really, really windy, and this time it was really bumpy as well.
Wow.
So it was pretty hard on the even on the plane and on the crew. Was as bumpy as if you don't have your seatbelt tight enough, you're gonna hit your head on the roof of the plane. So
Wow. So would you say what, like moderate or severe turbulence?
I would say severe for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is really intense. Like severe turbulence for listeners is basically you're not able to control the aircraft through it. Like, not that it'll throw your aircraft, into the ground or something, but you're not able to maintain your flight path.
Yeah, that was really, exactly like that.
Wow.
But that was just briefly, that was just momentarily, when you cross a ridge or,
Yeah.
when you have like a downdraft, you can drop maybe 100 to 200 feet
Yeah.
pretty quick, like 3,000 feet per minute down and come back to normal. So it's pretty rough.
Yeah. And doing that over and over again is exhausting.
Yeah. When you just pass through, it's not that bad, but when you work in that area for 2 hours, 3 hours, it's really challenging for the pilot.
Yeah, I believe it. When you saw the fires for the first time from the pilot seat, what went through your mind?
Oh my God, that was that was when we just jump over the ridge. The fire was already big. It was growing pretty fast. It was jumping as well since the vegetation was really dry. So every time in between the scoop and the drop, the fire situation was changing. So we really tried to do our best to save some people in the house. I think it works.
Yeah.
But we never know. It's because we are not in the ground just like the firefighters. So we help for sure, but we never know if it was the goal.
Yeah.
The goal was achieved or not. So
that must be tough sometimes to not know the outcome of your work.
Yeah. It's sometimes you thinking about that, after the action, and you say, that I should drop and that the other fire spot that would be maybe more effective, or normally they go manage the drop. They ask where they want us to drop, but that fire was really too busy for everybody. So we try our best to drop on the fire was close to the people or house to slow down the progression and let the people give time to people to exit the area.
As you settled into a rhythm, what was a typical shift like for you as a pilot? What time of day did you start, and how many hours a day were you flying?
In California, the start time is 8 for normal flying hours, like when we are not on red flag. Red flag is fire behavior weather warning. So on the normal day, we start at 8 and we finish by the sunset. But on the red flag warning, we're starting at 7 in the morning till the sunset. So that's the basic day with what we're gonna do. For the flying hours, it depends of the every situation. We can go up to 8 hours of firefighting on the same day. But just like I said, since we are 2 crew in the Los Angeles, we're not gonna go that far. We're gonna do 2 missions and change the crew.
Yeah.
Even if we have only 1 mission left, and it can get into the 8 hours, we're gonna do a crew change.
Yeah.
Just to make sure to have fresh people inside.
And were you flying every day?
No. Depends. The Los Angeles County, they manage the all the tools they have for the best reaction they need to. Let's say the CL415 is the best. In my mind, is the best tool to do like initial attack. So when the fire start, let's say after 1 or 2 days, all the firefighters is set up. You have like the retardant line done. You have lots of chopper. So it may be not the best tool to use it. In my mind, it's still the more efficient tool. But everybody's gonna say that for like a chopper pilot gonna say that, and we're gonna say that. But when you think about it, 1,600 gallon times 2 on the initial attack, that's the best tool you can have it on a quick response. Even if I said it's not fast, it's faster than a chopper, and we carry much more water than a chopper as well. So and we have really quick turnaround. we can do just like I said, 100 drop in a day. So it's really efficient on the initial attack or to protect a retardant line. But when it's too crowded on the fire, you have to manage the resources. You have to the best way you need it, and even if they have a big Palisade fire and all the other around, they still have a new start. So they need to have tool to go on a new start as well.
Okay.
So they manage that the best way. And you have the crew rest as well. It's really complicated to manage. So that's why we didn't fly there every day.
And I imagine the days you're off, you're just resting.
Yeah, because we are two crews, so we have 1 day is on and 1 day standby. So when on the day standby, you just staying around and resting and be prepared to for the next day or even in the afternoon, or if somebody gets sick, as an example.
Yep. Now, I think I've kind of figured this out from what you've said, talking about sunrise, sunset, but do you fly exclusively during the day or do you make nighttime drops in the 415?
We're not able to do nighttime drops since we don't have any night vision goggle or everything like that. And even with that, we were not able to do a scoop out of the lake because you're gonna not be able to see like a wood log on the lake or the wind direction, the wave. It's gonna be complicated with the night.
It'd be super dangerous.
Yeah, with the night vision. But I know the chopper can do like night flying. We can do night flying for point A to point B on a ferry flight or like a positioning flight. But we are not able to do firefighting during the night.
Okay. Did you feel as though you were making a meaningful difference when you were making these drops, or did it ever feel hopeless with the size of the fires?
I was thinking we made difference on the fire for sure. Just like I said before, we're trying our best to give people time to escape the area. So it was really efficient, especially in the California, since it's more like a brush fire. So when you drop 1,600 gallons of water, it's really efficient to calm the fire or even knocking off on the small part. But with the drought they have, it was really rapid to relight after that. So even if it was really efficient, it was kind of with that force of wind, almost hurricane category 1 wind forces, that was growing really rapidly.
Yeah. So it sounds like you said, it's almost more about giving people time to get out than at that point actually stopping the fire. It was almost a containment thing to let people escape.
In the beginning, was just like that. To me, was when we saw people, we were just heading there and trying to, just like I said, give them time to escape, go somewhere. When you see the flames going, just like everybody have seen on the news, you see Tyson rolling on the street and everything. So was something from the air, but I cannot imagine from the ground was how hard was that to leave that.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine being on the ground in that kind of a situation.
Me either.
Can you describe what it looked like after each drop? Could you physically see the flames go out?
Yeah. So when you are like number one, it's hard to see if the flames are going out. But on your turn, on that particular fire, when we're turning back to the ocean, we were able to see the spot of the drop. The number 2 can easily see the flames going out, and it can just tag and extend or roll up to the first drop. So that makes the dropping more efficient. But on a turn, you can see even the white smoke or just like the black area without any smoke, depending of the intensity of the area you drop it.
Okay, so you guys could actually see it going out. That's awesome. So obviously this was a multifaceted effort with lots of different aircraft and firefighting agencies involved, but Canada and the CL-415 got a lot of attention in the media. How did the California community or the community of firefighters receive you? Did they have a strong sense that they valued your contributions to fighting the fire?
I will say yes, they are really happy to see us. Just like I said before, it's another tool in the box of the Henry County Fire Department. Just like every entity, somebody like us, somebody don't like us. Even on the people, we can see that in the news, right? But mainly, I think the tool is valuable for the what they need to do, and for the fire season as well. Just like I said before, sometimes the chopper cannot take off and
Yep.
weekends, so that can be safe for the population over there and everything. So and I think the authority of LA County Fire Department are aware of that. So it's really valuable too. In my mind, of course, is the best tool you can have to fight fire, because it was engineering for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just chopper was not engineering to do that. It can be really efficient as well, but was not designed for that.
That's right. If you look at all the videos of all the various firefighting aircraft that were involved in LA, I think the only purpose-built firefighting aircraft there is the CL-415.
It is. It is. There's lots of the whole the military airplane was modified to do like retardant drop, like Hercules. They're doing like a water drop, but it's not the same.
No.
They have not the same impact of what we can have, since we can go right directly in the fire. Just on the Palisades fire, we were heading to the spot fire, just talking before, and the Elco was, after 2 drop, he said, okay, guys, you cannot go there anymore. He was like, I think the people are not understanding what we are capable to with those planes, because it's really maneuverable. It's really powerful, so we can do lots of job with this airplane. I will not say we can do the same job of the chopper, because the chopper can stop, can slow. It's different, but we almost can do the same job of chopper with the airplane, upslope, downslope, crosswind, and everything. So we are right in the middle of the chopper and retardant plane. So it's kind of really multi-purpose airplane,
Mm-hmm.
which makes really efficient.
And it was kind of nice that, given all the friction between Canada and the United States that was happening at that time, it was kind of nice that we could send help still and be good neighbors and put the politics aside and show up for our friends.
Yeah, Canada and the United States, my mind was always partner in that. So since we're going there for 31 years in Los Angeles, it's certainly a long partnership, and I don't think anybody wants that ending soon
No.
on both sides.
So what kind of toll does it take on you emotionally, knowing the fire is out of control? People are losing their homes and in some cases losing their lives. Did you have an emotional response in that moment, or did it maybe hit you weeks or months after the fact?
Yeah, the first response was just like a normal mission, a little bit bumpy, windy, and when we pass over the fire after the first drop heading to the ocean, that's when I see the all the traffic jam to the PCH. Was really long line of car jam even on the PCH on the all the Canyon Road. That's where I realized there was like life involved. So it was pretty emotional for sure, and it was hard to see that. We are used to see some house burning, 1, 2 house. Sometimes it happened in Los Angeles. That's the life over there. But to see all the neighborhood like that burning, at that time I was thinking, if we can be like all 10, 4, 15 here at the same time, can be really a big difference. But it was just like a thinking, we cannot send 10 aircraft at the same time over there, but that's what we need for sure. And it was at the time of the year was hard to get even people in an airplane. So when you see after each drop the situation going like pretty fast, changing pretty fast, and burning house, burning like school and everything, was certainly emotional to see that. We done the first 2 hour and a half refuel and came back, and it was changing. It was not the same fire when we came back.
Mm-hmm.
It was like bigger, closer to the shore, to the ocean, and we're just trying our best to prevent the fire going to the Santa Monica side. It was a small canyon over there, so we're just trying to do our best to stop control the fire. So yeah, it was the first time for me to see live threat like that and the building threat like that, like as many building as that, was full neighborhood. It was not just like a one isolated house or something. That was really really hard.
Yeah, yeah. I can only imagine that must have been really challenging and probably tough to sort of put that aside and focus and stay sharp on the mission.
It's hard to put on the side, but of course you don't have time to think really about that. When you just pass over, heading to the ocean, you have the mind going on. But as soon as you turn on a final to scoop on the ocean with 3 feet of wave or 4 feet of wave with maybe, I don't know, it was like maybe 40 knots on the ocean of wind. So it was really windy. So you don't have time to think about anything else of just flying your plane.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna be able to scoop on that kind of ocean. And when you are low, heading to the drop, you're just thinking about the way you're gonna do it, the way you're gonna enter, exit the drop zone. So you don't think about that either. So there's just a small period of time. And of course, when you get back home after the day, you're back thinking of that and everything. So that was pretty hard.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, Pascal, that's going to wrap up part 1 of our discussion on firefighting operations in LA on the CL415. Thanks so much for doing what you do and for taking the time to share your story with us today.
My pleasure.
Okay, we'll talk to you on the next one.
Okay.
All right, that wraps up part 1 of our chat with Pascal Duclos about fighting the wildfires in LA. For our next episode, we'll talk about some of the challenges he and his crew faced, how the fires were finally brought under control, as well as some of the differences between firefighting in Quebec and California. Do you have any questions or comments about anything you've heard in this show? Would you or someone you know make a great guest, or do you have a great idea for a show? You can reach out to us at thepilotprojectpodcast@gmail.com or on all social media at @podpilotproject. And be sure to check out that social media for lots of great videos of our RCAF aircraft. As always, we'd like to thank you for tuning in and ask for your help with the big 3. That's like and follow us on social media, share with your friends, and follow and rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Keep the blue side up. See ya!
Engineer, shut down all 4.
Shutting down all 4 engines.